The escape pod screamed through the atmosphere like a dying star. Inside, Commander Sarah Chen gripped the harness straps as the pod shook violently. Red warning lights filled the tiny space. The main colony ship, the Perseverance, was gone. 3,000 souls had been aboard when the drive core failed. Now Sarah was alone, falling toward an unknown world. The impact came hard. Metal shrieked and tore. Sarah's head snapped forward, then back. Everything went dark. When she opened her eyes, pain greeted her first. Her left arm throbbed. Blood ran down her forehead. The pod had buried itself in dense jungle, vines and branches covering the cracked viewports. Sarah unbuckled with shaking hands and checked herself. Broken ribs, maybe. Cuts and bruises everywhere, but alive. She forced the emergency hatch open. Humid air rushed in, thick with the smell of alien plant life. The jungle outside was a riot of purple and green vegetation. Strange sounds echoed through the canopy. Birds, maybe. Or things that filled the same role as birds on this world. Sarah pulled herself out and assessed her situation. The pod was destroyed, half buried in soft earth. Her emergency pack had survived. Inside, she found a basic medical kit, water purification tablets, a survival knife, some ration bars, and a small multi-tool. No weapons. No communication equipment that worked. Nothing that could get her off this planet. She treated her wounds as best she could, wrapping her ribs and cleaning the cuts. The pain was manageable. She had survived worse during her military training on Earth. Right now she needed shelter, water, and information. What Sarah did not know was that she was being watched. High above the planet, in an orbital station, sensors had detected the pod's entry. Automated systems recorded the crash. Analysis programs studied the wreckage composition. Within minutes, a report generated and sent itself to the duty officer. Sub-Commander Threx read the report with mild interest. His compound eyes scanned the data quickly. An unknown vessel. One life form detected. Small. Organic. The initial scans showed no weapons, no armor, no technological enhancements. The thermal signature indicated a warm-blooded creature, roughly humanoid in shape. Threx clicked his mandibles together, a gesture of dismissal. This world, Karvesh Prime, served as a training ground for the hierarchy's military forces. Occasionally, primitive creatures wandered into the sensor nets. This was probably another animal, perhaps from a crashed cargo ship. He activated the standard protocol. Send hunter drones to collect the specimen. Study it, catalog it, dispose of it if necessary. The drones were simple machines, designed for basic collection tasks. They would handle this easily. 3 drones launched from the station. They descended through the atmosphere, flying in formation. Their sensors locked onto the heat signature from Sarah's crash site. The estimated collection time was 15 minutes. Sarah heard them coming before she saw them. A high-pitched whine growing louder. She ducked behind a thick tree trunk and watched as 3 metallic objects descended into the clearing. Each was roughly spherical, about a meter wide, with multiple sensor arrays and mechanical arms folded against their bodies. The drones spread out, scanning the area. One moved toward the destroyed pod. Another began circling the perimeter. The third hovered near where Sarah crouched. She held perfectly still. Her heart pounded, but her breathing stayed controlled. Military training took over. Assess the enemy. Find their weaknesses. Use the environment. The nearest drone extended a mechanical arm, probing the vegetation. It was searching for her, but its scan pattern was predictable. It moved in straight lines, checking each section methodically before moving to the next. No creativity. No adaptation. Sarah looked around quickly. Her pod had torn through several trees on impact. Broken branches lay everywhere. Vines hung from the canopy like cables. The ground was soft from recent rain. An idea formed. She picked up a rock, hefted it once, then threw it hard to her left. It crashed through the underbrush. All 3 drones immediately swiveled toward the sound, moving to investigate. Sarah ran right, staying low, moving fast. She had seconds. She grabbed a long, straight branch that had broken from a tree. One end was splintered into a sharp point. It would have to do. The drones realized their mistake quickly. They turned back, searching again. But Sarah was already moving. She climbed halfway up a thick tree using the vines, pulling herself up despite her injured ribs. Pain shot through her chest, but she ignored it. The first drone passed beneath her. Sarah waited. Patience was a hunter's greatest tool. Her ancestors had chased prey across the African savanna for days. They had waited by waterholes for hours. She could wait 30 seconds. The drone stopped directly below her, scanning the ground. Sarah dropped. She fell onto the drone, driving the sharpened branch down with all her weight. The point punched through the sensor array on top, sparking and cracking. The drone wobbled, its flight system damaged. Sarah held on as it spun wildly, then crashed into the ground. She rolled away as it hit, coming up in a crouch. The drone was still active but confused. Its arms flailed blindly. Sarah grabbed another rock and smashed it into the main sensor cluster repeatedly until the machine went dark. The other two drones had found her now. They approached cautiously, their programming updating to account for an aggressive target. Sarah ran again, leading them deeper into the jungle. On the orbital station, Threx watched his display screen with growing interest. The first drone's signal had gone dead. The other two were pursuing the target, but their telemetry showed unusual readings. The creature was moving with purpose, not panic. It was thinking. Threx pulled up the recorded footage from the destroyed drone's final moments. He watched Sarah's ambush 3 times. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of surprise. This was no animal. He queued up enhanced analysis. The computer took several minutes to process the data. When the results appeared, Threx leaned forward. Species: unknown. Classification: sentient. Tool use: confirmed. Tactical planning: confirmed. Threat assessment: reclassifying. The words appeared on his screen one by one. Target displays tactical awareness. Reclassifying threat level to yellow. Recommend enhanced collection protocols. Threx felt something he had not experienced in years of military service: curiosity. What was this creature? Where had it come from? And why did it fight with such efficiency despite having no weapons? In the jungle, Sarah destroyed the second drone using a trap. She had lured it over a patch of soft ground, then collapsed the earth beneath it using a fallen log as a lever. The drone fell into a muddy hole and could not extract itself. She finished it with rocks. The third drone had learned. It kept its distance, hovering just out of reach. Sarah could not jump that high. She needed a different approach. She spent 20 minutes preparing. She wove vines together, creating a crude rope. She tied one end to a flexible young tree, bending it back. The other end she fashioned into a loop, a snare trap essentially. Then she waited in plain sight. The drone approached slowly. Its programming identified her as a threat now, but it still had orders to collect the specimen. It needed to get closer. When it entered the zone, Sarah triggered the trap. The tree snapped forward, the vine loop catching the drone perfectly. It yanked the machine sideways, smashing it against a tree trunk. The impact cracked its housing. Sarah ran forward and pulled out its power core before it could recover. 3 drones. 3 victories. Sarah sat down heavily, breathing hard. Her ribs screamed in protest. But she had won. She had survived the first test of this alien world. She did not know that in orbit, Sub-Commander Threx was already composing a new report, and this time his superiors would pay attention. The hunter drones were not enough. This required a real hunting party. Living soldiers, experienced trackers. The words appeared on Threx's screen, generated by the combat AI. Target neutralized collection assets. Deploying enhanced response team. Status: live capture authorized. Handle with extreme caution. Sarah Chen had just become the most interesting problem the hierarchy had encountered in decades. The hunting party landed at dawn. 4 soldiers emerged from the dropship, each from a different species within the hierarchy. They were professionals trained for this exact type of mission. Tracking and capturing dangerous specimens was their specialty. Scarix led the team. He was a saurian, tall and covered in dark green scales. His species had evolved from ambush predators. His eyes could track movement across vast distances. His claws could tear through light armor. He had been hunting dangerous prey for 15 years. Beside him stood Ven, a mammalian creature covered in gray fur. His species had powerful noses and could track scents across difficult terrain. He carried specialized equipment for analysis, chemical markers, tracking darts. The third member was Kes, an avian with sharp eyes and sharper talons. She could fly short distances and see in multiple light spectrums. Nothing hid from her enhanced vision, day or night. The last was Torv, massive and slow-moving with thick armor plating covering his body. He carried the heavy equipment and served as the team's wall. If something charged them, Torv would stop it. Scarrick studied the area where Sarah had destroyed the drones. He examined the broken machines carefully. His team spread out searching for signs. Clean kills, he said, his voice a low rumble. Whoever did this understood the machine's weaknesses. Could be another hierarchy species? Ven suggested, sniffing the air. Maybe a training exercise gone wrong. Kes landed on a branch above them. Negative. I found tracks, 2 legs, smaller than most hierarchy species. The stride pattern shows injury favoring the left side. Scarix nodded. Then we track. Standard pattern. Ven on point, Kes providing air support. Torv, stay close. This target is clever. They moved into the jungle with practiced efficiency. Sarah watched them from 300 meters away, hidden in dense undergrowth. She had heard the dropship land and had immediately relocated. The drones were one thing. Living hunters were far more dangerous. She studied each team member through gaps in the vegetation. The big reptile was clearly the leader. The furry one kept his nose low, tracking. The bird thing flew overhead in sweeping patterns. The armored one moved like a tank, 4 opponents. Each with natural advantages she lacked, each equipped with technology. They moved like soldiers with discipline and coordination. Sarah had no illusions about a direct confrontation. They would kill her easily. But direct confrontation was not the only way to fight. She moved slowly, carefully, placing each step with precision. She had spent the previous day exploring the area, learning the terrain. She knew where the ground was soft, where the vines grew thick, where the local predators had their territories. The hunting party would track her. That was inevitable, but she could control where they tracked her. For 2 days, Sarah led them on a winding path through the jungle. She left obvious signs in some places, forcing them to follow. In other places, she hid her trail completely, making them waste time searching. She observed their patterns. The furry tracker, Ven, would move ahead, then signal back to the others. The bird, Kes, would scout from above in regular intervals. The leader, Scarrick, stayed in the middle coordinating. The big armored one, Torv, guarded the rear. On the 3rd day, Sarah made her first move. She waited until Ven moved ahead of the group, following a scent trail she had deliberately laid. He was focused on the ground, his nose working. The others were 20 meters behind, temporarily out of sight behind dense vegetation. Sarah had prepared the area carefully. She had bent a young tree back and secured it with a vine. The vine was positioned across the path, hidden under leaves. A simple tripwire. Ven's foot caught the wire. The tree snapped forward, a large branch whistling through the air. It caught Ven in the chest, lifting him off his feet and throwing him backward. He hit the ground hard, gasping. Sarah was already moving. She dropped from above where she had been hiding in the canopy. She landed on Ven as he tried to rise, her knee driving into his back. Before he could cry out, she pressed a cloth soaked in sap from a local plant against his nose and mouth. She had discovered the sap's properties by watching local animals avoid it. It induced rapid unconsciousness. Ven struggled for 3 seconds, then went limp. Sarah grabbed his equipment pack, his communication device, and his tracking gear. Then she vanished back into the jungle. By the time Scarix and the others reached Ven, Sarah was 100 meters away. She heard their angry shouts. Scarix's voice carried clearly, "She is hunting us." The realization in his voice gave Sarah a grim satisfaction. On the orbital station, Sub-Commander Threx studied the biometric data from the hunting party. Ven's vital signs showed he was alive but unconscious. The others showed elevated stress hormones, increased heart rates. They were afraid, but the target's readings were even more interesting. Threx had managed to get a brief scan during the ambush. The creature's stress levels had barely changed during the attack. Its heart rate had increased only slightly, then returned to baseline quickly. This was not the profile of prey fleeing for its life. This was the profile of a predator selecting and neutralizing a threat. Threx pulled up the analysis from the recovered pod wreckage. The computer had finally decoded some of the data. The pod was from a species called humans, from a planet designated Earth. The database had limited information, but what it contained was disturbing. Earth was classified as a death world, gravity higher than standard, atmosphere rich in reactive oxygen, weather patterns that ranged from lethal cold to lethal heat. The entire planet seemed designed to kill anything living on it, and humans had not just survived. They had thrived. They had reached the top of their food chain through persistence and adaptation. Threx clicked his mandibles nervously. He sent a message to the hunting party. Exercise extreme caution. Target is an apex predator from a hostile world. Scarix read the message and growled. An apex predator? That explained much. New plan, he told his team. We stay together. No one goes ahead alone. We are not hunting anymore. We are surviving. But Sarah had already anticipated this change. Over the next 3 days, she made their lives miserable, without ever directly confronting them again. She contaminated their water supply with harmless but foul-tasting plants. She created false trails that led them into thorn bushes and swamps. She made sounds at night that kept them from sleeping properly. She stole more equipment during brief moments when they were distracted. Small things, a ration pack here, a tool there. Each theft showed them how close she could get without being detected. The psychological pressure built steadily. Kess became paranoid, constantly scanning the canopy. Torv jumped at every sound, then recovered but embarrassed, checked every step twice before moving. Even Scarix, the veteran, felt his confidence eroding. On the 6th day, Sarah ambushed them again. This time she used one of their own flashbang devices, stolen from Ven's pack. She threw it into their camp at dawn, when they were tired and distracted. The device exploded with light and sound. In the confusion, Sarah rushed in. She tackled Kess as the avian tried to take flight, slamming her to the ground. She grabbed Kess's equipment harness and the scanning goggles, then rolled away as Torv's massive fist cratered the ground where she had been. Sarah ran, weaving between trees. Scarix fired a stunner at her but missed. She disappeared into the jungle again, leaving them with even less equipment and even more fear. That night, Sarah examined her stolen goods. The scanning goggles showed multiple light spectrums. The communication device let her listen to their conversations. She was learning their language through exposure, her brain picking up patterns. She heard Scarix talking to his superiors on the station. His voice was tired and frustrated. This target is unlike anything we have faced. It does not behave like prey. It studies us, it adapts. It uses our own tactics against us. A pause then. No, we have not captured it. We have barely survived it. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. She was winning. Not through strength or speed or technology, but through patience, planning, and persistence. She was doing what humans had always done best. She was outlasting her opponents. She was making them quit before she did, and she was just getting started. On the station, Threx made another report. This time, the combat AI's classification had changed again. The words appeared on his screen. Target exhibits pack hunter psychology, operates alone but employs persistence predator tactics. Individual combat capability, unknown. Psychological warfare capability, confirmed. Threat assessment, high. Caution advised. Below that, in smaller text. Note: target has not attempted lethal force despite multiple opportunities. Reason unclear. Recommend diplomatic contact protocols, but Threx's superiors ignored that last line. Instead, they authorized reinforcements. The hunt was escalating. The reinforcements arrived in force. 2 additional squads, 12 soldiers total with heavy combat armor and advanced weapons. They came with vehicles, drones, and enough firepower to level a small city. Commander Vex led the combined force. He was a career soldier from the hierarchy's elite ranks. His species, the Urgoth, were known for their tactical brilliance. He reviewed the reports on the human with cold efficiency. A single target, he said to the assembled soldiers, unarmed, operating in hostile territory. This should have ended days ago. Scarix bristled at the implied criticism but said nothing. He and his remaining team members stood to the side looking exhausted and beaten. Vex continued, "We will use superior numbers and firepower. Standard suppression tactics. We drive the target into the canyon systems to the north. Once cornered, we capture or eliminate as necessary." It was a solid plan. Overwhelming force, terrain advantage, no escape routes. Vex had used it successfully dozens of times, but Vex had never hunted a human before. Sarah watched the new arrivals from a distance. She counted the soldiers, assessed their equipment. Her stolen scanner showed thermal signatures, weapon types, communication frequencies. She was outnumbered and outgunned by an impossible margin. Most creatures would run. Most creatures would hide and hope to survive. Sarah had a different idea. She had been studying the local geography using Kess's mapping device. The canyon system to the north was extensive. Narrow passages, dead ends, caves. Vex wanted to trap her there perfect. She would let him. The hunt began the next morning. The hierarchy forces moved in a coordinated sweep, checking every possible hiding spot, driving steadily north. Sarah retreated before them, leaving just enough traces to keep them confident they were on the right track. By midday, she had entered the canyon system. The walls rose high on either side, red stone baked by the alien sun. The passages twisted and turned, creating a maze of rock. Vex smiled when he received confirmation. "She is cornered. All units maintain formation. We proceed carefully but confidently." They entered the canyons in multiple groups covering all possible exits. They had thermal scanners, motion detectors, aerial drones. There was nowhere to hide. But Sarah was not hiding. She was preparing. The first thing she did was smash her way into several of the local insect colonies that lived in the canyon walls. These were not simple answer bees. They were the size of her fist, with powerful mandibles and aggressive territorial instincts. She marked several hierarchy soldiers' paths with pheromone markers she had extracted from the insects. The soldiers walked into ambushes of thousands of angry insects. The creatures could not pierce the combat armor, but they swarmed the visors, the joints, the air intakes. Soldiers panicked, swatting and stumbling. 2 fell from narrow ledges, their armor saving them from death but not from injury. Vex ordered the teams to pull back, regroup, and treat their wounded. Time lost, 3 hours. Next, Sarah used the stolen flashbang devices to create rockfalls. The canyon walls were unstable in places. A well-placed explosive could collapse a path, forcing the soldiers to find alternate routes. She created 4 such barriers, each one adding hours to their pursuit. But Sarah was not just slowing them down, she was exhausting them. The soldiers wore armor that protected them but added weight. They carried weapons, supplies, equipment. Each step required more energy than Sarah's lighter load demanded. The sun beat down on the red rocks and the temperature soared. Sarah moved constantly, always staying ahead, never stopping. She drank from water sources she found, ate the ration bars she had stolen, and kept moving. When night fell, she did not sleep. She continued through the darkness using the stolen night vision goggles. The hierarchy soldiers could not match this pace. They needed sleep, needed breaks. Their biology required regular rest periods. After 2 days in the canyons, they were exhausted. Vex grew frustrated. His tactical advantage was meaningless if he could not catch the target. His soldiers were slowing down, making mistakes. 3 more had been injured in falls. 1 had suffered heat exhaustion despite climate-controlled armor. "How is she doing this?" he demanded of Threx over the communication link. "She should be more exhausted than we are." On the station, Threx had found the answer in the human database. He read it aloud. Human beings are persistence hunters. Their ancestors would chase prey animals for days across open terrain. The prey would run until exhausted, then collapse. Humans can regulate their body temperature through sweating, allowing sustained exertion in high heat. They can function on minimal sleep for extended periods when necessary. Vex stared at his screen in disbelief. "You are telling me her species evolved to hunt by simply not stopping?" "Essentially, yes. That is insane. That is humanity." Vex looked at his exhausted soldiers and made a decision. "We stop here for the night. Full rest period. We cannot fight if we cannot stand." It was the right tactical decision. It was also exactly what Sarah wanted. That night, she struck again. The soldiers had set up a defensive perimeter with sensors and automated turrets. They felt safe in their camp, finally able to rest. Sarah bypassed the sensors by climbing the canyon walls, using cracks and ledges that no one thought to monitor. The automated turrets tracked movement at ground level. They did not look up. She reached a position directly above the camp. She had gathered rocks throughout the day, piling them on a precarious ledge. Now she simply gave them a push. The avalanche was not large enough to kill anyone through the armor, but it scattered the camp, destroyed equipment, and injured several soldiers who were struck by falling stones. More importantly, it shattered any sense of safety. The soldiers spent the rest of the night awake and paranoid, weapons ready, jumping at every sound. Sarah disappeared back into the darkness, found a sheltered spot, and allowed herself 4 hours of sleep. It was more rest than any of the hierarchy soldiers got. On the third day in the canyons, the hierarchy forces were falling apart. Soldiers made mistakes from exhaustion. One accidentally discharged his weapon, nearly hitting a teammate. Another fell asleep while on watch. Several were showing signs of psychological stress, seeing threats that were not there. Vex called for an extraction. This was no longer worth the cost. They would leave, regroup, and return with fresh troops and a new strategy. But Sarah was not done teaching them. As they moved toward the extraction point, she led them through a specific canyon passage. She had spent hours preparing this area. She had weakened support rocks, created false paths, and positioned herself perfectly. When half the force was in the passage, she triggered another avalanche. This one was larger, more controlled. It did not bury anyone, but it completely blocked the path, dividing the force in two. Then Sarah attacked. She dropped into the separated rear group, moving fast. She used a stunner she had stolen days ago. Fired 3 precise shots. 3 soldiers went down. Before the others could react, she grabbed equipment packs from the fallen soldiers and vanished into a side passage. The remaining soldiers fired at shadows. Their shots ricocheted off stone walls. Vex screamed orders, but the chaos was complete. By the time they cleared the rockfall and reunited, Sarah was gone. But she had left a message. Using rocks and debris, she had arranged symbols on the canyon floor. It took Threx only a moment to translate them using the human database. The message read, "I am unarmed. You are prey." Vex stared at the message for a long time. Around him, his soldiers looked defeated, exhausted, afraid. They had come with overwhelming force to capture one unarmed target. Instead, they had been systematically broken down day by day, hour by hour. He opened his communication link to headquarters. Mission failed. Requesting immediate extraction of all forces. Status of target? Came the reply. Vex looked at the message on the ground. Still at large. Still dangerous. She is not trying to escape anymore. She is trying to kill us. Not with weapons. With time. There was a long pause from headquarters. Then, extraction approved. All forces withdraw immediately. The hierarchy soldiers left Karvesh Prime the next day. They left behind destroyed equipment, wounded pride, and a new understanding. On the station, Threx filed his report. The combat AI processed the data and issued a new classification. The words appeared on screens throughout the hierarchy's command network. Species, humanity. Classification, persistence apex predator. Threat level extreme. Combat assessment. Individual human subjects can defeat superior forces through sustained psychological and physical warfare. Recommend immediate escalation to High Command. Below that, in red text, warning, subject has not attempted lethal force despite numerous opportunities. Subject is demonstrating restraint. Reason unknown. Possibility, subject is attempting communication through demonstration of capability. Recommend diplomatic protocols immediately. But before any diplomatic protocols could be enacted, the hierarchy's high command made a different decision. They sent their best. An assassination unit, specialists who had never failed. If the human would not be captured, she would be eliminated. When Threx read the orders, he felt something unusual for his species. Fear. Not for himself. Fear for what humanity would do when they learned one of their own had been killed. The assassination unit arrived without fanfare. 6 specialists, each one a legend in their own right. They came from the most dangerous worlds in the hierarchy, species that had evolved as apex predators before achieving sentience. They did not land at the main station. They did not announce their presence. They simply infiltrated Karvesh Prime like shadows, each one moving independently toward the target. Sarah knew something had changed when the regular patrols stopped. The jungle had become quiet. Too quiet. She checked her stolen scanner and found no standard hierarchy signals in the area. Either they had given up, or something worse was coming. She assumed worse. Sarah had used the break after the canyon battle to establish a base camp in a defensible location. A cave system with multiple exits near fresh water, with good sight lines. She had stockpiled supplies, weapons she had taken from soldiers, and had created various defenses. But now she abandoned all of it. The camp was too obvious. Anyone good enough to mask their approach would find it. Better to be mobile again. She gathered only essential items and moved deep into the jungle, staying in areas with dense cover. She traveled through streams to mask her scent. She moved during rain to hide her thermal signature. She took every precaution she knew. It was not enough. The first assassin found her on the second day. His name was Zix, a shadow caste operative from a world where light was scarce. His species could see in almost complete darkness and move in perfect silence. He was invisible to most sensors and nearly undetectable by organic senses. He came for Sarah in the middle of the night, moving through the darkness like smoke. His blades were designed to kill silently, efficiently, but Sarah was not asleep. She had learned over weeks of survival that sleep was a luxury. She had trained herself to take brief naps throughout the day, staying alert during the dangerous night hours. When Zix approached, she was awake and listening. She heard something, not a sound exactly, an absence of sound. The normal jungle noises stopped in a specific pattern, creating a zone of silence that moved. Sarah rolled away from her bedroll just as Zix's blade struck where she had been. She fired the stolen stunner blindly into the darkness. The weapon's flash revealed Zix for a split second, a tall figure in dark armor. He dodged the shot easily and vanished again. Sarah ran. She could not fight what she could not see. She crashed through the jungle, making noise deliberately. Zix would follow, confident in his abilities. Sarah led him to a specific location. Earlier that day, she had discovered a plant that released a cloud of spores when disturbed. The spores glowed faintly in the dark, a defensive mechanism to startle predators. She triggered the plant. Thousands of glowing spores filled the air. Suddenly, Zix was visible. The spores stuck to him, outlining his form in faint luminescence. For 3 seconds, he was revealed. Sarah did not hesitate. She had positioned herself perfectly. She threw a sharpened branch like a spear. It caught Zix in the shoulder, penetrating between armor plates. He made no sound, but he stumbled. Sarah pressed the attack. She grabbed a heavy rock and rushed forward while he was still visible in the spore cloud. She swung with all her strength at his head. Zix was a professional. Even wounded and visible, he was dangerous. He deflected the blow, grabbed Sarah's arm, and threw her against a tree. She hit hard, stars exploding in her vision, but the spores were still on him. Sarah could see him coming for the finishing blow. She raised the stunner and fired point-blank at his exposed neck above the armor collar. Zix collapsed. Sarah lay on the ground, breathing hard, her body screaming in pain. She had survived. Barely. She took Zix's equipment, his weapons, his armor plating. Then she moved locations immediately. If there was one assassin, there would be more. The second came 3 days later. This time it was a creature called Rix, from a high-gravity world. She was immensely strong, her bones and muscles designed to operate under crushing pressure. Standard weapons barely slowed her down. She tracked Sarah through broken vegetation and disturbed earth. Sarah could not outrun her. Rix was slower but tireless, following with inevitable precision. Sarah needed a different approach. She led Rix to a cliff edge overlooking a deep ravine. She made herself visible, standing at the edge. When Rix charged, Sarah waited until the last possible moment, then dove aside. Rix, built for high gravity, could not stop her momentum quickly enough on this lighter world. She plunged over the edge, falling 50 meters into the ravine below. Her heavy armor kept her alive but trapped her at the bottom with 2 broken legs. Sarah did not kill her. She simply took the equipment and moved on. The third assassin was the most difficult. His name was Krell, and he was a tracker without equal. His species had predator instincts refined over millions of years of evolution. He could follow a trail days old across any terrain. He never lost a target once he had their scent. Sarah knew she could not hide from him, so she did not try. Instead, she tracked him. She used everything she had learned about hierarchy tactics. She observed his patterns, his preferences, his methods. For 2 days, she followed him while he followed her old trails. She learned his habits. Krell preferred to attack at dawn. He always checked his surroundings every 30 minutes. He carried minimal equipment, relying on natural weapons and skills. Sarah used this knowledge. She prepared a location and deliberately left a fresh trail leading to it. Then she circled around behind Krell and followed him as he followed her trail. When he reached the ambush point and found it empty, he paused to reassess. That was when Sarah attacked from behind. She had learned that Krell's species had a vulnerable spot at the base of the skull. She struck with Zix's blade, fast and precise. Krell went down. 3 assassins defeated. 3 more to go. During this time, Threx had been watching through what limited sensors he could access. He was horrified by what he saw and even more horrified by what he was about to do. He broke protocol. He hacked into the communication system and sent a message directly to Sarah's stolen communicator. Human. This is Sub-Commander Threx. The assassination unit will not stop. You have defeated 3. 3 more remain. I am transmitting their locations and specifications. This is a violation of my orders. I am doing this because what is happening to you is wrong. Sarah read the message on the small screen. She looked at the transmitted data. Locations, abilities, weaknesses. Everything she needed. Why are you helping me? She transmitted back, using the translation software she had cobbled together. Threx's reply came quickly. Because I have studied your species. I have seen what you can do. And I believe that killing you would be the worst mistake the hierarchy could make. We should be trying to understand you. To communicate, not to eliminate you. Then help me stop this, Sarah sent back. I cannot do more without being arrested, but I have given you what you need. Please survive. Please show them that humanity is worth talking to. Sarah looked at the data for a long moment. Then she began planning. The next 3 days were brutal. Sarah hunted the remaining assassins using Threx's intelligence. She used ambush tactics, environmental hazards, and psychological warfare. She turned each one's strengths against them. The 4th assassin died when Sarah collapsed a cave entrance on him. The 5th fell into a pit trap filled with local predators. The 6th, an aerial specialist, Sarah shot from the sky using a stolen precision rifle. By the end, Sarah was covered in wounds, exhausted to the point of collapse, and running on nothing but willpower. But she had won. She stood in the middle of a clearing and activated the communicator. She sent a message to the hierarchy's main frequency, one she knew they would all hear. My name is Commander Sarah Chen. I am a human from Earth. I crashed on this world by accident. I did not want this fight, but you came at me with drones, with soldiers, with hunters, with assassins. I defeated them all. Not with superior technology, not with superior strength. With the same tools my ancestors used, intelligence, persistence, and the refusal to give up. She paused, then continued. I could have killed every soldier I encountered. I chose not to. I could have made this war instead of survival. I chose not to. I am showing you that humanity can be dangerous, yes, but we can also choose mercy. We can also choose to talk instead of fight. Another pause. I want to go home. But I also want you to understand something. If humanity is ever threatened, if you ever come for my species with the intent to harm or enslave us, you will face billions of people like me. And we will never stop. We will never quit. We will outlast you, outthink you, and outlive you. So I offer this: peace, communication, mutual respect. Or you can send more hunters, and I will keep defeating them until you understand the lesson. She ended the transmission and collapsed against a tree, finally allowing herself to show the exhaustion she felt. On the station, Threx played the message for the arriving High Command. When it finished, silence filled the room. Finally, one of the High Command spoke. She defeated 6 of our best assassins alone, unarmed at the start. She has demonstrated capability beyond our predictions. Another added. The combat AI recommends immediate diplomatic protocols. A third looked at Threx. You helped her. Yes, Threx admitted. And I would do it again, because she is right. Humanity is dangerous, but they can also be allies. The choice is ours. The High Command looked at each other. Then slowly they nodded. Initiate first contact protocols, the senior member ordered. And the medical ship landed softly in the clearing where Sarah had made her last stand. She watched it approach, her stolen weapon ready but not raised. She was beyond exhausted, her body a collection of injuries and pain. But she was still alert, still ready. The ship's ramp lowered. No soldiers emerged. Instead, a medical team approached slowly, their arms clearly visible and empty of weapons. Behind them came Sub-Commander Threx, Sarah recognized him from the brief video communications they had shared. He was insectoid, compound eyes reflecting the sunlight, mandibles clicking nervously. He moved with careful, deliberate motions. "Commander Chen," he said in surprisingly clear English, transmitted through a translation device. "I am Sub-Commander Threx. We have spoken briefly. I am here to offer medical assistance and, if you are willing, safe transport to meet with the hierarchy's high command." Sarah studied him carefully. Every instinct screamed danger. This could be a trap. But she was out of options. She could barely stand, and infection was setting into several of her wounds. She needed help. "The assassins?" she asked, her voice rough. "Recalled. All hunting operations have been suspended. You have been reclassified as a diplomatic contact, not a target." "What changed?" Threx clicked his mandibles in what Sarah would later learn was a gesture of respect. "You did. You proved that humanity is not prey. You proved you are not monsters either. You showed restraint when you could have killed. You communicated when you could have hidden. The High Command has decided to treat you as what you are, a representative of a new species." Sarah lowered her weapon slightly. "I just want to go home." "We will help you with that. But first, please let us treat your injuries. And then, if you are willing, come speak with those who lead the hierarchy. There is much to discuss about the future of human and hierarchy relations." Sarah looked at the medical team. They waited patiently, making no aggressive moves. She made her decision. She nodded and allowed them to approach. The medical treatment took 3 days. The hierarchy's technology was advanced, but human biology was still largely unknown to them. They worked carefully, consulting with Threx, who had studied the limited human database from Sarah's pod. During her recovery, Sarah had time to think. She had survived through skill and determination, but also through luck. If any of those assassins had been slightly better, or if she had been slightly slower, she would be dead. But she had survived. And now she had an opportunity to shape what came next. On the 4th day, she met the High Command. They gathered in a large chamber on the orbital station. The High Command consisted of 7 individuals, each representing a different founding species of the hierarchy. They were old, powerful, and accustomed to being obeyed. Sarah walked in alone, dressed in clean clothes provided by the station, her wounds mostly healed. She walked with confidence despite her situation. She was one human facing the leaders of an empire that spanned hundreds of worlds. The senior member, a being called Ancient Voth, spoke first. His species resembled a cross between an octopus and a bird, with multiple limbs and keen eyes. His voice came through translators as calm and measured. "Commander Chen, you have caused quite the disruption to our operations." Sarah met his gaze without flinching. "Your operations attacked me first. I defended myself, indeed, and you did so with remarkable effectiveness. Our combat AI has analyzed your tactics extensively. You employed persistence hunting strategies, psychological warfare, environmental exploitation, and adaptive learning. You defeated trained soldiers, experienced hunters, and legendary assassins, all while injured and alone. I did what I needed to survive." Ancient Voth gestured with one limb. "Let me tell you about the hierarchy, Commander. Our civilization is 40,000 years old. It was founded by species that evolved from prey animals, herbivores, scavengers, creatures that survived through cooperation and intelligence rather than predation." He paused, then continued. "We built an empire on the principle that community and technology could overcome natural disadvantage. We became powerful. We explored the galaxy, and in all that time we encountered many predator species. Some we integrated into our society, others we fought. A few we exterminated when they proved too dangerous." Sarah's expression hardened, but she said nothing. "But we have never encountered a species quite like humanity," Ancient Voth continued. "You are not ambush predators who rely on raw strength. You are not pack hunters who overwhelm with numbers. You are persistence predators. You pursue, you adapt, you learn, and you never stop." Another member of the High Command spoke, a reptilian similar to Scarix but older. "You scare us, Commander Chen, and we are not easily frightened." Sarah took a breath, then spoke carefully. "I understand your fear, but understand this. Humanity did not come to your space looking for conquest. We were colonists looking for a new home. We had no idea you existed. The Perseverance was a civilian ship with families aboard. 3,000 people died when our drive failed." She let that sink in, then continued. "I am a soldier, yes. I am trained for combat. But most humans are not like me. We are farmers, teachers, artists, parents. We build things. We create, we explore. We dream of a peaceful future among the stars. But you can fight, Ancient Voth stated. Yes, when we must, we can fight. Every human carries the genes of survivors. We come from a world that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways, and we adapted to all of them. But fighting is not all we are. It is just one tool in our species' survival kit. Threx, standing to the side, spoke up. Commander Chen could have killed dozens of hierarchy soldiers. She chose not to. Even against the assassins, she used lethal force only when absolutely necessary. This suggests that humanity values life, even enemy life. Ancient Voth considered this. The High Command members communicated among themselves in a series of sounds and gestures Sarah could not interpret. Finally, Ancient Voth spoke again. We face a decision, Commander. Humanity is now known to us. Your pod's data included the location of your homeworld. We could choose to see humanity as a threat and act accordingly, or we could choose to see humanity as potential allies. He leaned forward. Tell me, Commander, what would humanity do if our positions were reversed? If you discovered a civilization of billions who might become dangerous? Sarah thought carefully before answering. It would depend on who was making the decision. Some humans would want to strike first, eliminate the threat before it grows. Others would want to build walls, hide, and hope we are never found. But the best of us, the wisest of us, would try to talk. To understand, to find common ground. She stepped closer. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? It is not just our ability to fight. It is our ability to cooperate with those who are different from us. On Earth, we have hundreds of nations, thousands of cultures, many religions and philosophies. We fight sometimes, yes, but we also trade, share knowledge, create art together, and work on common problems. If humanity joined the galactic community, we would bring that same approach. We would learn from you. We would share what we know. We would find ways to benefit both our peoples, but only if you approach us with respect rather than fear. Ancient Voth was silent for a long moment. Then he said, You speak well, Commander, but words are easy. Your actions on Karvesh Prime show what humans can do. How do we know humanity will not become conquerors? Sarah smiled grimly. You do not. Just like I do not know if the hierarchy will keep its word. Trust is not given freely. It is earned over time through consistent action. All I can offer is this: let me go home. Let me tell my people what happened here. Let me tell them that the hierarchy chose peace over fear, and let us build from there slowly, carefully, with open communication. And if we refuse? Another High Command member asked. If we decide humanity is too dangerous to contact? Sarah's expression turned cold. Then you will have proven that the hierarchy makes decisions based on fear rather than wisdom. And someday another human ship will come to this region of space, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 100, and when they find out what happened to the Perseverance and to me, you will face not one survivor fighting alone, but a prepared humanity that knows you are here. She let that sink in. You cannot undiscover us. The question is not whether humans and the hierarchy will interact. The question is whether that interaction begins with cooperation or conflict. That choice is yours to make. The High Command conferred again. The discussion lasted nearly an hour. Sarah stood patiently, though her legs ached and her wounds throbbed. She would not show weakness now. Finally, Ancient Voth spoke. We have made our decision. Humanity will be classified as a galactic apex species. Only the 4th species to receive such classification in our recorded history. This means several things. He listed them. First, human space will be declared a quarantine zone. No hierarchy ships will enter without explicit permission from human authorities. Second, we will establish a diplomatic channel for communication. Third, we will provide you with the means to return home safely. Fourth, Subcommander Threx will serve.